Welcome to One Word a Day. I'm Sophie, your pilot into the universe of Chinese. Today, let's go over an important role because before we're talking about xiang, right? Xiang is the tip of the bureaucracy system, the, the minister, the top of the pile. Okay. Now, guan is everybody else. Everybody in that hierarchy of bureaucracy that try to maintain, to govern, is this guan, that's government official. Okay, so you see guan in traditional and simplified, both of them look the same. Versus 2000 years ago, got a little bit more details here. And because I have been reading this script style of Chinese rendering from 2000 years ago, many, many episodes. So in my mind, just image reading, I can kind of make some dot connection over there. So here, this character is called, is pronounced as dui. This is a character that's no longer standalone in our today's language. We don't have a dui. Dui means a hill, because we have another character that add one more of this box attached to this top left corner thing. So, okay, in many of Chinese concepts to build virtual reality, I guess, on this 2D frame. That's what they're trying to do, right? Ahead of the computer game era, to try to build a world, to reflect the world in this image. There's a flat image, not even 3D world, it's a 2D one. So this world building of this top left corner frame is high ground. You see today's character, this here, skip that part. So we miss that critical high ground meaning of it. And when we add these boxes to the edge, that gives you the kind of a gauge of how high that thing is. We have a three, up to three, that means a cliff. And now when we have a two, that means it's not that tall, it's kind of a medium height in relative to human height. So that's dui. Dui means a hill, not as steep as a cliff. Okay, so we have a dui here. And then on the top is, I think that's like a mian or mian. Again, this thing is part of the components of today's language. We don't use them on them own. So I don't remember the name, I mean, the pronunciation of it because we don't ever say it in our communication. So this arch with the chimney on the top, that means a shelter. That means rooftop. You can almost imagine that. So yeah, roofing was the same ever since the ancient times. We need to cover ourselves from the weather, right? So that's our roofing, that's our shelter building. And then I imagine it to be a chimney. I haven't to read about why we have a dot over there. Originally, I mean, we can just have this arch that already gives you the sense of enclosure because we came from caveman, right? Caveman is this natural habitat that you can find on the natural landscape. And eventually we can build self-standing structures. That's human shelter. And for humans to shelter in after we ever master the use of fire that we can cook, then this chimney, this what I envision it to be, that chimney on the top is absolute necessary. So from that, you can see it's a human shelter. Human shelter, so that's a roof with this not so high cliff, but kind of a hill in the middle. How can that be? Just visually, it doesn't really make sense, right? How can you have a roof, a shelter built so high and that you can enclose a hill in the middle? Doesn't make logical sense that way. And also, the meaning is official, government official. How could that be? I have to come up with some reading. So according to scholars, the reading of that is the bottom, this dui here, means population, means gathering of people, because we have another concept that paired with something else. That means the gathering of people. And in military terms, it's 2,500 people in military. So this gathering of people, and then you add a rooftop, kind of covering, right? Kind of sitting over them that give you the sense of a governing. So that's one reading, scholar reading. And then I came up with a different theory. Okay. So these government officials are going to be sitting in their local governments, right? And the local governments, I would imagine, in ancient society organizations. So you have a marketplace and you have a residence place and then you have farm field outside, right? Here we're talking about the township. So there are some craftsmen in there. Not everybody farmers are far out there. But people who are, town dwellers, they gather to form a certain kind of a trade and transportation and business up there, right? And then among this piece of land, that the government is going to be situated on this little hill. So I would compare it to the shining city of a hill. The set phrase Ronald Reagan used to describe the ideal of this society that's sitting on the moral higher ground, and physically they're sitting on top of a hill. So the city of a hill gave you the sense of physically they're sitting taller, like a closer to heaven, I guess. And also they're more visible. And they're also more defensible as well, right? So from all angles, I guess when you go to a new place, how can you know that place has, I guess, the power structures in that space? Is the ones that's sitting on top of the hill. They are probably the more powerful and I guess resourceful that they can afford to have the best view in town, right? And they're sitting on top of a hill. And in the ancient society, I can easily map this custom of even today's, like we can observe property values, right? If it's a hill sitting property, have some view, probably more expensive. So if we map that to ancient society, probably the most resourceful and powerful residence in town would be government official residence, and it would be the government. So they probably live there as well and also conduct their business up there. So they are probably such shelters that's on top of the hill. So here it doesn't mean the shelter covering enclosing the whole hill, but it means the shelter that's on top of the hill, on the higher ground. And that's where you're going to find, most likely to find the power center of that town. So that's my reading. I think it's feasible. All right. 升官发财. Okay. In Chinese, there are two distinctive career paths, and we use that two distinctive paths as a well-wishing to people. We wish them to rising in their ranks, so reason position in the government system, and boosted wealth. So I use boost, probably not a good translation, but fat means a trigger. So it means an instant release of wealth. So it's almost like a drop of wealth, a lottery win kind of sudden, a huge volume of wealth. Okay, so 升官发财 are these two well-wishing directions. You either rising in your rank or you accumulate a lot of wealth all of a sudden. Okay. 官官相护, it talks about a phenomenon of government officials and officials. They are going to mutually protect themselves. I guess this, if we understand a little bit about how bureaucracy works, especially in the past, in where this language came from, the context, it's easy to imagine a world that government officials are going to form a certain alliance among them so that if one one would cover the other person's ass, right? Basically. So they're going to mutually support each other. Therefore, they can both, they have a better chance of this competitive world of government bureaucracy. They can rise in a rank and they can protect each other, cover each other, something like that. But from the people's point of view, that's not fair. You may protect somebody unfairly, right? Give them special advantage or special mercy or something, right? But it's a observation long made, therefore it made into this 4-character set phrase. 一官半职. So we're talking about one official or one position, government official position, and half a position. So 职 means position, and not necessarily means government official thing, but it can be any kind of a position. But here, one would pair official and position together, and when we have a quantification there, 1.5, that almost instantly diminishing the importance of it. So 一官半职 is almost like a half-assed position. It's peripheral. It's not essential. It's almost like a redundancy. And you just want to be working in a government bureaucracy to get 一官半职, which is non-significant. And then you just hanging in there. So I guess in that sense, I can almost understand today's Doge almost kind of pitch to this idea of lots of redundancy built into bureaucracy. And especially if the Americans are like, what, 200 plus some years almost 250 years, right? Okay. Of this whole system set up and over hundreds of years, accumulation of this official mutual protect. How do you think one form of their protection? It could be one's children, offspring are going to be easier to brought into that system, right? That's one possible. I probably imagine Chinese reality onto American life may or may not be true. But then 一官半职 almost give it a sense of like in China, probably as well as in America too, working in a government would be probably considered as a stable and relatively easy. It's not as a competitive. You can just hang in there, cruise through life easy. And so I guess that's what Doge is pitching about, is to trim down the fat of the government so that such people who have asked in their government position can be relieve the burden for the taxpayers. So what definitely, so this is one image of Guan portrayed in probably Song dynasty, because throughout the eras, different dynasties have different headgear. This looks like a Song dynasty here. And of course, like all these are symbols talking about the rank, the significance of the decision level of that Guan. So there we go. Thank you very much for your time. See you another day.